Hello everybody, it's Nick here with Nick Tolman Music, and today we are going to continue our beginner guitar lesson series using Hal Leonard's Guitar Method Book 1. Let's get started. Alright, so today we're going to look at page 7. And before we do, just a reminder, please check out my Patreon page. These guitar lessons are coming to you totally free here on YouTube, but if you would like to support Nick Tolman Music either by saying thank you for these lessons and this content, or by wanting to see this content continue, please consider becoming a patron on my Patreon account today. Thanks. Alright, so in today's lesson we're going to continue with the first three notes that we learned in our last lesson, which are E with our open first string, F, which is our first finger on the first fret of the first string, and G, which is our third finger on the third fret of the first string. E, F, and G. All right, now we're using a combination of whole notes, which get 4 beats, half notes, which get 2 beats, and quarter notes, which get 1 beat. All right. So first let's take a look at exercise 4 here. It's mainly using quarter notes, although we do have a whole note at the end. For now we're still doing all down strokes, okay? So we haven't even talked about stroking upwards with the pick, we're just stroking down. There's a really nice note at the top, and I 100% agree with this approach, which is at first practice the exercises slowly and steadily. When you can play them well at a slow speed, gradually increase the tempo and speed. That is the way to go. So as you're doing these exercises, try not to get ahead of yourself. If you catch yourself making a lot of mistakes, slow the tempo down and then slowly increase. It's crucial to use a metronome. A metronome is going to help you keep track of exactly where your tempo is at so you know how to track your progress. I like to have an actual metronome device like this one that I can just keep on my stand, turn on and off easily. You can also use an app on your phone or your iPad or whatever. There's a million different metronome apps out there. I have the link for this metronome in the description below if you want to check it out on Amazon. But all right, here we go. Starting with the metronome at 72, let's take a look at exercise 4. Here we go. 1, 2, and ready and play. Two, 3, 4, off. All right, that's pretty straightforward. Now, like we talked about in the last lesson, some of the things that you're looking for on these is making sure that you're making a good sound with each note, that there's no buzzing or dead sounds, okay? Making sure that your placement is good on the fret, making sure you have adequate pressure, all of that. But also making sure that you're not creating gaps in between notes. These gaps usually happen when you're changing something with your left hand. So for instance, if I'm moving from F to G and all of a sudden I have this dead space as I move, we want to try to eliminate that, okay? We want to make a nice smooth. All right, a nice smooth sound. So focus on those things. If you're catching yourself making gaps, probably means that you're going too fast. Your muscles are not keeping up with what your brain wants them to do. Take the tempo slower and then build it back up until you can make it nice and smooth. All right, so that was at 72. Let's hear what exercise 4 sounds like at 120 on the metronome. So again, slowly build up the tempo until you can play it at a faster tempo like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. Two, 3, 4, off. And there it is. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at exercise 5. It's very similar. It's going to kind of just drill these concepts with different combinations of notes, okay? Has a nice little tip right above it. It says, touch only the tips of the fingers on the strings Absolutely. We're focusing on making sure that we're playing on the tips of our fingers. That's going to help us to have a nice clean sound. And also when we play on other strings, keep us from inadvertently touching strings that we don't want to. Okay, so making sure that you're playing right up on the tips, not on the fleshy part of the finger where your fingerprints are. Okay, so let's try number 5 at 72. 1, 2, ready, and play. Two, 3, 4, off. All right, here we go. Nothing to it. Let's go ahead and jump that metronome up. You can hear what it sounds like at a faster tempo. So here it is at 120 on the metronome. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and. Two, 3, 4, off. All right, so something to watch out for on this one. Again, especially when we're going from that G to F, making sure that we're utilizing that concept that we talked about in the last lesson, which is just leave that F down, right? You know you're coming back to it, so don't be taking that finger off. Usually with my students, especially my younger students, I call this flying fingers, right? We don't want flying fingers. We don't want this. We want sneaky fingers. We want our fingers to be discreet. Right? So if you notice on my left hand here, you can barely tell that anything's happening. I'm just playing the G, taking the third finger off. Not. Right? That's going to slow us down. It's going to make things sloppy. Watch out for that, making sure your fingers are nice and discreet. Sneaky, making minimal movements. Only move if you have to move, and move as little as you can, but as much as you need. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at exercise 6. This is 72 on the metronome. It's got a nice little message for us. Keep the left hand fingers arched over the strings. This is true. It's basically the same concept. You're just wanting to keep your fingers on the tips. Okay, so you'll notice that I have like a nice little arch to my fingers here. They're not like laying down flat. They're nice and arched up and around. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Exercise 6, 72 on the metronome. 1, 2, and ready, and play. Half note, half note. Half note, half note, off. All right, let's jump that up to 120 on the metronome. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, play. Half note, half note. Half note, off. Again, we're just using quarter notes and half notes, whole notes. We're just doing downward picking. We're just kind of getting some different combinations of exercises here to help us drill these first 3 notes. All right, so looking at exercise 7, it introduces a concept, and that is obviously that music can be longer than 1 line long, right? So the first exercises that we've seen so far just take up 1 line. And what happens is if music is longer, it's very simple. You just go to the next line and you stay in time. Once you finish that first line on exercise 7, you're just going to jump right down to the beginning of the next line. It even has a little arrow showing you, hey, go to the next line. So let's go and try exercise 7. Here is 72 on the metronome. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and play. Two, 3, 4. Two, 3, 4, off. Okay, so you also notice on this one that there are some letters that are up above the lines. Now these are what we call chord symbols. It is outlining what chords should be played in association with the melody that you're playing with the notes. Now, at the beginning of the book, these chord symbols are going to be kind of a light gray color. And what that means is that they are for the teacher to play. So you don't need to worry about playing them right now. Eventually they will be black. And that will mean that, yes, you need to practice these chords too. But for now, don't worry about the chords. We're just focusing on getting these notes down. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play those chords in time so you can play your melody along with them. Okay, so I'll count us in and play that, and that way you can play along. I will go ahead and put the melody that I just played alongside of these chords so you can hear what they sound like together. Here we go. So this is 72 on the metronome, and this is chords and melody together. You go ahead and play the melody along with this. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and play. 2, 3, 4, off. There you go. All right, so let's go ahead and jump the metronome up. We'll try this at 120. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, off. Now you notice that's significantly faster. If you're struggling with that tempo, spend some time working up to it. Okay, don't just jump straight to it. If you can't jump straight to it, great. By all means, please do. But if you need to work up slowly, that's the way to go. All right, so here are the chords. I'm going to go ahead and add the chords to that so you can hear what it sounds like with the chords. Feel free to play along with this. It'll be really helpful. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, off. And that's the idea. All right, one more exercise on this page and we'll take a look at it. So this is number 8. It's called Spanish Theme. And here's the metronome at 72. Here's what the melody sounds like at that tempo. 1, 2, ready, and play. Half note, half note. Half note, half note. Two, 3, 4, off. Okay, so that is Spanish Theme, and here's something that you might think about. So as you're playing this, if you play it and you don't play it perfectly the first time, that's perfectly okay. There are certain ways that you can practice to be more effective than others, okay? We've talked about starting slow and building up. That's a great tool. Another tool that you might do is what I like to call chunking, okay? Now chunking is breaking the music into smaller chunks and focusing on those chunks and then slowly adding other chunks, okay? So for me, I might break it into measures. So I'm going to look at just the first measure. I've got the metronome on. Here's just the first measure. 1, 2, ready, and play. Half note, half note. Wow, the first measure is easy, okay? We don't need to spend too much time on that. Let's take a look at the second measure. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and play. Now this measure has a little bit more to it, right? You're kind of moving between notes a little bit. It's a little more complicated than the first measure. If you had a problem with it, what I might do is just focus on just this measure for a while. So I might do something like this. And again. Now I'm feeling pretty comfortable with it, so let me add it to the first measure, the first chunk that we did, okay? So now we're gonna do a little bit bigger chunk, the first and second measure. 1, 2, ready, and play. Nice, all right. I might need to do it again. Let's try it again. Here we go. 3, and... Good, now I'm feeling pretty comfortable with that. Now you're going to start to realize that when you learn music this way, it's really effective because music is often repetitive. And if you look at the third and fourth measure of this exercise, they're exactly the same as what we just played. You already know it, so you just doubled the amount of information that you know for this song, all right? Then you move to the next line, and you realize, okay, this is a little bit different, but again, it's a repetitive thing. We look at that first measure of the second line, and we've got this E, F, G, F, right? So I might turn on the metronome and just kind of loop that a little bit. I'm focusing on my left hand, making sure I'm doing nice, discrete movements, making sure that I'm playing on the fingertips, focusing on all those little technique factors that we've talked about. Right? So now I just drilled that and I feel a lot more comfortable with it, okay? So these are just some practice tools that you might use. Chunking, looping, slowing things down, all of these factors are going to come back, and I'll recommend them more and more throughout, but keep them in mind as you're learning, all right? Let's go ahead and jump this metronome up to 120. You can see what it sounds like at the faster tempo. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. Note, half, note. 2, 3, 4, off. There we go. That's it for our lesson today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please stay tuned for our next guitar lesson, and we will see you next time.